from Grammy-nominated rock star to Emmy Award-winning composer. I just can't wait. I'm so excited, and I wish that the Emmy was here, but you didn't bring it.
What? Who?
Today on the Fly Filmmaking.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On the Fly Filmmaking. I'm your host, Maria Menounos, and you can find me all over the internet at Maria Menounos. And today, I'm talking to somebody that you can now also find all over the internet because he just won an Emmy. Jeff Russo, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, he is a music composer, and this beautiful song that's playing is what you just won for, right?
Yeah, that's correct. You're playing the choir version of the main theme for Fargo.
Yes.
For Fargo, that's
Yep, Fargo. And was this choir version only on season 3?
Season 3, but I recorded it for season 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I love it. And I was listening through the soundtrack, which you can find on Spotify also. Right. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
And then diving into what you've done all sorts of things.
Yes, I tend to sort of be a little ADD with the music.
That's okay,
so
but at least you're sticking with music.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
mean, I don't know that I could do anything else.
Well, I think you've got a career in it. You should stick with it. I'm feeling good about it. So definitely stick with music. It seems to be working out for you.
I think maybe I might try it for a little while longer.
Okay.
Just give it a little more.
Just a little bit more.
time.
You're almost there. You're almost there. All right. So I'd love to know about your Emmy win. You are the first Emmy winner that we've gotten so fresh off the carpet.
I'm fresh off the carpet. Yes, it happened a couple days ago, and it was as surprising to me as I've ever been in my entire life. I went to the Emmys with my wife. We went, and I had said there's no way I was going to win. I thought for sure it was going to be a good friend of mine. His name is Matt Quayle, who did the music.
We interviewed Matt Quayle a few weeks ago. He's wonderful.
So I was positive that he was going to win for Feud, and when we were sitting there and they said the nominee names, I sort of looked at my wife, and then I looked over at Mac, expecting them to say him and for me to give him a smile and and they said Fargo, and my wife said later that I looked like I was going to vomit. Like I looked like I had seen a ghost, and I turned just ghost white, and she was like, "I've never seen you like that before," and I was, it was surprising, and then of course it was pretty thrilling, but still I'm still sort of in shock. I still am not really believing it.
Right.
I keep the Emmy is in its box. It's not even out of its box. I keep it in its box on my desk, and I keep looking at it and not really believing that it's there.
Yeah, I had requested that he bring the Emmy here today, but he didn't want to take it to some meeting. I would be going around town like, "Hi, I'm here. Starbucks, hello."
I had a spotting session for another project that I'm working on, and it would have been a little uncomfortable
You put
to
that
bring
in a bag. We look at it later.
Yeah.
It's okay. I understand. One day I'll get one of these guests to bring their fancy awards because I just want to sit with it.
And just look at it.
Feel the fanciness of
Well,
this
it's
award.
not an it is a her. And her name is Emmy.
Her name is Emmy.
Yes.
Well, I want to meet Emmy. I want to interview Emmy. I feel like she's a woman of few words.
She had very few.
Yeah.
But she says a lot.
Yes. Oh, that's like the best kind of woman.
Yeah.
So you won for Outstanding Music Composition for a limited series, Fargo. So this was for season 3 that you won the award for, but you've done the composition for the whole series.
Yes,
correct?
seasons 1, 2, and 3.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so that one being limited, is it a little bit different each time?
It's interesting that you asked this question, because I've now seen a number of people ask, well, what's the difference? Why is that a limited series and, say, House of Cards, which won for the best music for a series? What's the difference? Why is one a series, one is not a series? And I want to sort of set the record straight.
Let's hear it. Okay.
So the House of Cards is a show about the same thing, that the story continues from one season to the next.
Yes.
It is the same story. With a limited series like Fargo and Feud, for instance, they tell a different story every year.
Right,
So
American Horror Story would be like
different
that.
story,
Every season's different.
and that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So American Horror Story is Coven one year, is some
Asylum, Murder
Asylum, right,
House.
Carnival,
Yeah.
whatever. And with Fargo, even though we're called Fargo, we don't change the name of it every season. It's a new story, new characters, new actors, new everything.
Yeah.
So that's what separates it from, say, a regular television series, because we are limited in that way. We have a closed-ended narrative every season. That's the difference.
Right.
So there you have it. There's your answer.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. People don't get it. Who is it? I'll slap
It's
them.
the internet. The internet asked that
They don't
question.
understand
So we're
anything.
on the internet now. I figured I'd
No, it's
answer
here.
the internet.
We're here to tell you. Limited
Yes.
series.
Yes.
There it is.
There it is.
Great. You guys know you binge watch enough. You figure it out.
Right.
It's fine. But that's why we're here on the Fly Filmmaking, to teach you about this kind of stuff. So
We're here to answer all the questions.
all the questions.
All of them.
All right, then my next question for you is, do you approach something like this differently than something that is a continual story?
Well, yeah, certainly from season to season I do. It was basically like I was starting completely new. The only thing the only thematic element that transversed all 3 seasons, actually 2 thematic elements. One is the main theme continued to be. It was just sort of, it would pop its head up in different ways. And then in season 3, we had a character appear in season 3, which is the only character that technically appeared in all 3 seasons, and that was this character. His name was Wrench, Mr. Wrench, who was the hitman, one of the 2 hitmen in season 1. He appeared in season 2 as a young boy in episode 10, and then in this season he appears in episodes 7, 8, and 9, or 8, 9, and 10.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, so,
So
he has like a musical theme.
yeah, there was a theme for wrench and numbers in season 1 that then became the theme for Wrench and Swango, who Nikki Swango was the name of the other character, and it's this drum theme that I would play on the drums, and that theme sort of came back in season 3.
Oh, right on. Well, good. Then that is a different approach, because it's different, but it's in the same world.
That's correct. So
And
it's different, but it's the same.
Yes, which is when we were talking with Matt Quayle a few weeks ago, was a similar thing where there are recurring themes, but it's different.
Right.
So-
And he was talking about Feud, or he was talking about
American Horror Story.
American Horror Story, right, exactly.
Yeah, so good. I like that. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about some of your other projects that you have happening. Legion's coming up again?
I'm starting that right now. As a matter of fact, I've been on set watching them shoot the first episode, and that's really, really exciting, because the work that we did in season 1, I felt really, really connected to, and really it was a lot of fun to do. That kind of music has always played a central role in my music listening experience. I would go home and put on those kinds of records, like, Pink Floyd and crazy atonal classical music.
Right on.
Really just get
And
nuts.
so when you're sitting on set, are you already scoring in your head?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had to write a piece of music for a sequence that they were shooting too, so I had already done that. But yes, as I'm watching them and reading scripts and seeing how it's all sort of coming together, I'm starting to write the themes in my head.
Awesome. And then you've got Counterpart, which is a new show that's coming out.
That's correct. So it is a thriller show for Starz Network that'll come out sometime, I think, in January or February.
Okay.
But it stars J.K. Simmons, and
Right on.
it's really, really interesting. It's about it's about a mirror world that gets discovered, and people living on both sides, and so a lot of the actors play themselves on both sides. It's pretty interesting.
That's neat. I feel like you get a lot of fun projects then.
I have been very, very lucky that I've been able to get to work on some very, very interesting and very cool projects. So yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got Three Christ that's premiering this week, right?
Yeah, it's premiering at the Toronto Film Festival this week, and I'm
Nice.
really excited about that. I worked on that at the beginning of the year. Stars Richard Gere, and that's a really interesting story about a psychiatrist who was studying the interaction of 3 schizophrenic patients in the Ypsilanti mental hospital, excuse me, and they all thought they were Jesus Christ.
Oh.
So he thought, why don't I put all 3 of them in a room together,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens. And he does, and hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
No, it's
does not
it's
sound
not
like that,
funny.
but-
I mean, there are some light and fun moments, but it's a really interesting story told about these people, and apparently it's a true story based on
Yeah.
a book and
Okay.
truth.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. And then one of the most stressful shows I've ever seen, The Night Of.
That was last summer. Yeah, that was. I would say that is a very well described sentence. And
Yeah.
yes, it was a very stressful show. Stressful to do, stressful to watch, stressful
Yeah.
to be a part of, but it was really fulfilling, though. It was really fun.
And I really think like the music plays so much into that, is that like bringing the tension, like really putting it in your soul. Because
Yeah.
music like taps in a little bit differently the way a visual thing can.
I totally agree with you, and I think that's the one thing that kept stressing me out, too, is I had to sort of really pull on that tension. It would pull out of me, too, so I would go home sort of feeling like I needed a drink every night.
Yeah. No, I'll be honest. I think I only got 3 episodes into that because my heart couldn't take it. I was like, this is too stressful.
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
but people would call me and be like, I can't watch this show at home alone.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I need to have either a friend or I have to watch it during the day. It can't be watched at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You're
pretty
just haunting
stressful.
people.
It's just
haunting
you know.
people. And then my favorite of your newest projects
Uh-oh.
was announced today or was premiered out on the internet today is the Star Trek Discovery theme.
I am working on that show.
Yeah, that is a project that is on your roster.
That is currently being done. I'm currently working on that, and I had written the theme for the show back in March or April, and they released it today to the public, a sort of behind the scenes look.
Great.
At what we did.
Really good timing because like you just won your award, your
Yeah.
name's buzzing out there.
I'm
and,
wondering
like,
if they thought about that.
I
when they
wonder
released
if
it
that
today.
was planned. Well, we've got a little clip from that if we want to scope that out. I really liked hearing it for the first time because I know it's not something we were allowed to talk about too much.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No idea what I'm talking about. But it was released out in the world, this little clip of Star Trek Discovery. And you running a 60-piece
Yeah,
orchestra?
I think it was
There's just,
actually.
like, a few
they
people.
they say 60. I think it was 63.
63.
I think so.
All right, let's scope it out.
French horns.
The music of Trek is a critical part of the experience of Trek. The original Alexander Courage theme is one of the most iconic and memorable themes of all time. It's built into the DNA of the show. So there's a beautiful segueing in and out of the original theme into the more modern theme.
Look at you go.
That's me conducting.
Oh my gosh, I've got chills. I've got chills listening to this. I cannot wait for Star Trek Discovery. So I know the project we're not supposed to talk too much about, but like as a Star
What
Trek
project?
fan,
What project
are you
are
a
you- what-
fan
are you
of
talking
the
about a
show
project?
called Star Trek?
You know, it's funny. Yes, I watched Star Trek when I was a kid, and I'm a fan now.
Yeah.
I continue to want to see the movies. I continue to want to engage, for lack of a better way
Yeah.
of saying it. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
That's really great. Yeah, because this version of it definitely, as they said in this article, it's an Entertainment Weekly article that I found this on. That it's like a throwback to the original Star Trek. So it's nice. That's what I feel. I don't know your opinion on it.
I have
but
no opinion.
You have no opinion,
None.
but I just think it's wonderful. It sounds wonderful, and I will watch the show for sure.
What show?
It's just a little thing called Star Trek. You should probably check it out
Oh,
if you want to.
I might.
If you want.
I will.
You don't have to.
It
Nobody's
premieres.
pressuring you.
It premieres on the 24th, I think. Is that right? 24th.
Yeah, right on. So,
Somewhere.
Good. How
On the
exciting.
somewhere on the internet.
See,
I
that's a
think.
dream of mine is to be part of Star Trek, and so this is the closest that I've gotten so far. Is somebody who's not allowed to talk about working on the project.
I don't work on that project.
You don't work on nothing.
No.
Don't know nothing about nothing. I feel like someone's coming for your kneecaps. So awesome. So let's talk about your background in entertainment. So from my digging on the internet, you were in a little rock band. Back
Also,
in the day.
yes. So I like to refer to those as my clown days.
Okay.
When I delved into wanting clown makeup on and
Yeah?
and smiles and stuff.
Nice.
I started out when I was a teenager wanting to be in rock bands because the guitar players got the girls, so I wanted to be on stage playing guitar. And then I remember I smoked pot once and listened to The Wall and thought, oh, I've got to do that.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd kind of thing. And then I started a band. And about 10 years later, my band made our first record, Lemon Parade, which we had a couple hits on it.
And
we
that same band is Tonic the whole way?
that same
That's the one
band
you
is
started,
Tonic.
then 10 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I started that band in like 1992.
Okay.
And with Emerson, who was a friend of mine in high school, and we were out here in LA, and we made a record, and then we went on tour, and we all of a sudden found ourselves like 8 years later after making 3 records, and we had toured around the world, and it was and continues to be a thing that is very close to my heart. I still play with the band, and the band still goes out. Sometimes I can't go on tour with the band because I'm now a lot more busy with writing music for these films and television shows and video games and stuff, and but it's something that really is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's really wonderful that you mentioned The Wall being so inspirational for you. Where you're like, I need to do that because that's rock music, but it's so cinematic.
I think that's maybe where I sort of got the urge to be a part of making music that is cinematic, or what sort of shaped my musical journey. We wrote pop songs, but we always sort of thought about them in terms of being visualized, And I don't even mean like the way we would make videos. We made videos, and
I watched a few. They're so moody.
Some of them are, and some of them are not. Like there are some with us on roller skates.
I saw a little bit of that.
Right,
one,
of course. But we always sort of looked at music as a visual thing, And what can we make you sort of visualize and feel? And I think that's a cinematic pretense, So I think that helped me to want to get involved in this kind of stuff. But it wasn't until about 2004 that I had any idea that I would want to do anything like this, and make music. I mean, before 2011, I had never really written anything of any orchestral nature.
Okay.
I'd thought about music in terms of harmonies and melodies and how can we build these things. But, with my first season of Fargo, that was the first time I'd ever written any music for an orchestra. And that I just sort of had to teach myself how to do that along the way.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Is this on the fly?
On the fly.
You had to learn on the fly?
I would say that the beginning of my career in film and television was all on the fly. And one of the things that I think a lot of composers will tell you is that most of us sort of sit and wait for someone to figure out that we don't know what the hell we're doing. Like, we don't know what we're talking about. We don't know we just sort of,
all artists.
It's all on the fly. Right,
or
right.
Like even everyone. It doesn't even matter. Not even artists.
when you talk about filmmaking on the fly, I got a phone call from Noah, who's the showrunner and creator of Fargo, who I had worked with in the past, and he said, "Hey, I've been asked to write a script and develop this show Fargo." And I was like, "You mean the movie?" And he's like, "Yeah, what do you think of that?" And I was like, "Well, it's a great idea. Let's, it's great. Let's talk about it." So we went out to dinner, and we talked about what the score should be, and we talked about it being orchestral and cinematic and cold and beautiful and big. And I went back to my studio and I was like, "Oh shit, how do I do that?"
Yeah.
And I did it that night. I wrote the theme, and that is as on the fly, I think, as it gets. I sent it to him the next day.
Yeah.
And he was like, "This is exactly what I was talking about. Let's, do more." So I just started writing more.
That's great, because that has been a continual theme talking to all the different artists on this show is just go do it.
Right.
Just go do it. Like,
figure out how to do it later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you'll learn on the way. Something great will probably come of it, or
sometimes not. And then you sit and you go,
yeah. Well, I did that.
That was bad language. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
It's fine.
That's okay.
It's fine.
Right.
It's totally fine. But
We're on the internet.
Yeah, we're on the internet. Everything goes. Please
Right.
keep your pants on.
Oh, wait a second. Oh,
That's
sorry.
the next episode. We talked to your PR people. They said later, another time, another episode for that.
Right.
So when you transitioned over from pop rock
Right.
to composition for movies and films, like how did that happen?
Well, I started back in 2004, 2005. The band, we just decided we were going to take a bit of a break. The Emerson was going to go make a solo record, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. I started writing songs for a solo record, which I never finished. And then, so I'm good friends with Wendy Melvoin of the duo Wendy and Lisa, and they were in Prince's band, and they had started writing music for films and television a couple of years earlier than that. And Wendy had said, why don't you come down to the studio and check out what we're doing? So I went down and hung out with them for like 3 months. 2 months just watching what they were doing. And finally they said, hey, do you want to work here? Maybe assist us and do this and that. And I had already sort of been helping out. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a really great idea. And eventually they asked me to write a cue. They were like, do you want to try writing a cue? And I said, sure. And I did. And once I did that, I realized that it was really interesting. And I wanted to be involved in that. And they had me writing music for the show that they were working on called Crossing Jordan. And then at the same time, they were working on a show called Heroes, and I was around them while they were writing that show, and I was sort of helping organize, I should say, recording sessions and this and that, and helping the engineer and what he needed, and sort of just basically assisting and watching them. And that lasted for about a year, and then I went out on my own. And about 3 years later, I met Noah, the person who created Fargo, and he had created this other show called The Unusuals, and he asked me to write the music for that.
Right.
And that was sort of my foray into writing music for.
Right, because you found a place where you could learn, and then you got in and were doing the work.
Yeah, and that's correct. And I just knew someone who could afford me the time to sit and watch, and just take it all in.
Right, but that was somebody that you knew from your previous life.
Yeah, actually, it was somebody I met because my wife was good friends with them.
Right.
But yes, same difference.
Right, but you put yourself through other artistic endeavors in a place where you could have those kind of connections.
That's correct.
It's not saying you want to be a music composer for TV and film, you need to go start a rock band, but it won't hurt.
Right. Well, having any sort of musical experiences like all lead you to where you're going to be. So,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I know a lot of people who want to start their careers, they go to a college, they go to like music school and take film scoring, and that's a path to doing the thing that you want to do. I didn't do that. I had a rock band and made records and went on tour, and then now I'm doing something else. I think that it's really just a question of having musical experiences and applying that to how you write music later.
Yeah, and it all informs the next step. Which,
everything, but everything informs your next step. Every step you take informs the step after that.
Right, but then you also don't have to. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like I think the issue a lot of people that I talk to who want to get into production of some kind, whether it's music or visual or anything like that, is that at the beginning they're like, well, I need to know exactly what that thing is that I want to hit at the end.
Never. That'll never happen.
You're never going to know that.
You're never going to happen. And I've said this to myself about 1,000 times. If I would be able to go back in time to when I was like 17 and said, in 25 years, you're going to be writing music for films and TV and video games, and this whole rock thing is going to be something in your memory.
Yeah.
I would say, fuck you.
Yeah,
no way.
this is my thing.
I'm a rock. I want to be a rock guitar player. So you never know where your life and your career can lead you, and you just have to have the openness to walk that path, any path, whatever that is. Like if you're sitting here saying today, in 10 years, I know what I want to do. This is the path that I'm going to take, and it's the only path that I want. Then I feel like people, when people limit themselves to that, then they're never going to be able to walk the path they're supposed to walk.
Right, because you need to be open to exploring these offshoots. Right. That might lead you to an Emmy-winning career.
I couldn't agree with you more. And the thing about it is, like, we're in a creative world. It's not like, okay, if I want to be a doctor, there are steps that you take to be a doctor. And yes, you're never going to know if you're going to be the doctor that discovers the cure for eczema or whatever. But there are steps to take to get to be a doctor. When you're in a creative life, you just have to allow the creativity to guide you wherever that may take you. So it's like, what I know about my current creative life is my experience as a songwriter and my experience as a performer in a band informs how I do my job now. How I write music for Star Trek or how I write music for Fargo is actually informed by that. It's nothing like what I did, but the experience affects how I make decisions and creative decisions now. So being open to that can lead you to places that you would never expect. I never expected to be sitting here saying, oh yeah, you can see the video of me conducting the 60-piece orchestra for Star Trek. Like, there's no way I could have ever foreseen that, ever, considering that I don't have I have no classical music training. I have sort of taught myself how to conduct, and then I've read some books and taken some classes. I have a mentor. His name is Angel, and he has helped me along the way with this whole conducting thing, which I find to be really interesting and really fun. I'm not a experienced or accomplished conductor by any stretch of the imagination, but when I stand up there, it's just very thrilling and fulfilling to be a part of the orchestra in that way.
To be conducting for what show?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the show that I was talking about, but just never having expected to be where I'm at right now is also part of the joy of finding it all now.
Yeah.
So you never know where you're going to be tomorrow.
Right, but like it's all stayed within this thread of creativity.
Right.
Like whatever your creative impulse is, just go for it and start doing it, and the path will show itself.
Right.
Sounds like Yoda.
They always say that opportunity. The success is always being ready for the opportunity to present itself to you. So it's not about like wanting to figure out what you have to do. It's being prepared to accept an opportunity that's in front of you so you can do it and then have the ability and the opportunity to have success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So then, as far as the production for TV and film, where do you fit into the production timeline typically? So,
well, the key word to your question is typically.
Typically, 'cause
yes,
it's always different.
It's actually really different for various productions. Like with Fargo, with when I work with Noah, for instance, like Fargo and Legion and all the stuff that we do together, I start very, very early in the process. He'll give me the first draft of a script. We'll start talking about music, and I will start writing and sketching themes to send to him. So when he's in the van location scouting, he's listening to the music and like that and this is what he told me he was doing in Fargo 1, where I had sent him already about half an hour's worth of music before they ever started shooting that first episode. And it was all based on his characters. And so I get in really early. I like to get in as early as possible because, the music can inform the story informs the music, and if it all does what it's supposed to do, it's all a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. Which is my favorite thing about doing like TV and film is just it's a big collaborative effort. It's
Very
a
collaborative.
Collaborative art piece that is just so much fun because without all the pieces working, like it's just okay.
Right. I agree with that. And it's also like you check your ego at the door because, it is a one big collaboration. It's like I'm making my art, and I'm using air quotes when I say art because it's artistic, but it's the art, the piece of art is the entire work, not the individual work inside. So we're all trying to create the bigger thing.
Yeah.
As though you get 18 people to make one big sculpture. I'm just going to work on the hand over here. Somebody over there is going to work on the arm, and somebody's going to work on the foot. It's the same basic principle with making a video game or making a television show or a film. It's everybody coming together to make this final product. And the best work is always when everybody's working in harmony. And when people allow people to do what they do well.
Yeah.
I've always run into things where people can micromanage, and micromanagement can really slow a process down to a grinding halt, and then dilute the project to something that is not necessarily as good as it could have been. But I would say typically I come in around the time that they are either late in the filming or the beginning of the editorial phase, where they start needing to have music fed to them. So when they're putting their original cuts together, they can know what it's going to sound like.
Gotcha. So with Fargo, it was in the beginnings a little bit more based on music for characters.
That's correct. And the same for Legion, too.
Okay. And then on other projects, it's more music for scenes.
Well, on other projects, it's like I get brought in to watch a cut, and then they say, what do you think? Where do you think we should put music? How do you think music should do? Like, how do you think it should work with the picture? And where would you like to see music? And this is where we think music should be. That's usually about, 3/4 of the way through the process of the entire thing. And we'll sit down and do that, and then I'll take the cut back with me and start writing to the picture.
Yeah, so you'll have like, you play it and then you're like, oh, this is what we could do. Do you play a lot of the instruments yourself?
I think it depends on the score. Like there are scores that I do play everything, and it's either drums or guitars or keyboards, or it's all in the computer and stuff, or me just banging on various things and making sounds. And other times when it's orchestral in nature, I'm really not playing anything other than I'm playing the keyboard to write in the pieces for the orchestra.
Yeah. What's the weirdest thing that you've made a musical note with?
What's the weirdest
item
thing? Oh,
like I think one of our other guests was like they used a dildo for something.
That's
and it was,
interesting.
So funny.
I've never done that.
Yeah,
I've never used that.
Yeah, they were like drumming.
I might have to try that
Yeah.
sometime. The weirdest thing. It's like it could be anything. It's a coffee cup and just banging on it and then changing and manipulating the sound in the computer. I've done stuff like that. Gone outside with a recorder and recorded sounds. In Fargo 1, I used the sound of a washing machine. In Fargo 2, I used the sound of a typewriter and me destroying a typewriter with a baseball bat. And in Fargo 3, it was the sounds of automobiles and cards shuffling. I took the cards and started making a shuffling sound, and I used that as a percussive sound in the show. Yeah,
that's cool.
So it can be anything, and they can be actual musical instruments and synthesizers or stuff, and also mangling musical instruments. Like I took a violin and just started banging on it and see what happened, and then you take that and put it in the computer and sort of mess with it and see what you come up with.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the true meaning of the word composition. Composition is you're taking things and putting it together and composing something.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be specific musical notes. It can be the sound of anything, and you're just at the end. The end is a composition of various things put together.
Yeah, that's how I feel in the visual medium. I photograph and shoot video, and with that, when I'm like, I'm not quite sure what it is, but I don't know, I'm going to take a photo of this corner of the chair and then kind of see what I can do with it later.
Right.
Or
you
like
can
a
color
clip
it
of
and
this.
change it and mess with it and turn it backwards and turn it upside down, and then all of a sudden it's not the corner of a chair anymore. It's something beautiful.
Yeah.
Not that the corner of the chair wasn't beautiful to begin with.
It's
but
a really good looking chair.
Right.
But yeah,
Really.
that's this whole concept of whatever it is that you're trying to create, just try, think outside the box.
Right.
And see what comes up, because you might come up with something really amazing.
But don't try to think outside the box.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It's like there's a very fine line between being different and trying to be different.
Just
And
it's
it's
like,
like
I need to
do
be more-
something more. Right.
Yeah. No, but just
Yeah.
let loose a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe let loose a little, just a little. So if somebody is on their own at home, like they're just trying to make a film and they want to try and compose some music for themselves, what kind of advice do you have for them?
For someone who knows how to write music, or somebody who doesn't know how to write music?
Well, okay, so let's say somebody doesn't, and they don't know where to start, but they're like, I've got this little 5-second clip, I want to try and make something.
Anything can be the score. Anything. Any sound can be score. We talk about that all the time in spotting sessions. It's like, there's this very, I was talking
And
about
what's
this.
a spotting session?
So, okay, spotting sessions, when you sit down with the filmmakers and you decide where music is going to be. You
Okay.
spot where the music is
Gotcha.
going to be. So I was spotting the show Counterpart, and was it Counterpart? Yeah, it was Counterpart. And there's this long sequence where it was an emotional moment, but it was raining. And the rain was the score. Like, there was nothing we could do for music. Music couldn't go, because it was like, I said, either we lose the rain, in which case I can put music, or the rain needs to be the score. And I've used the sound of rain inside scores before in order to sort of help the narrative and help the sound of the score. But the point is, anything can be a score. It can be any sound. They could just sit there tapping, and that could be the score. Maybe I don't know what the picture is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be musical or violins or drums or anything specific. It can be any sound. Get a wine glass and put some water in it and just tap it with your finger, and you've got sound.
Yeah.
And then you can put that in your computer and stretch it out. Like what I've done a lot is, you take a cup and you pour a little bit of water in it. You can hit it and it'll make a little bit of a tone. And then you can take that tone and stretch it out over about 4 hours and make this one long piece. And then that in and of itself, and then you cut into that and find the right tone. And that can be the basis for any musical piece.
That's really fascinating. Because music for me is so foreign, but talking with all of these composers, I'm a little less scared to give it a try. Like visual, I'm like, sure, whatever, give me a camera, let's
Right.
go. But like for sound, that's really brilliant, where it's like you just make that, stretch it out, see where there's something you can find, which is just, it's very similar to what I do with video footage.
Sure.
You know, where you're like, slow it down, speed it up.
Well,
it
that's
could
exactly
be amazing.
Right.
Turn
That's
it
exactly.
upside down. It
Turn it inside out, make
yeah.
it black and white,
yeah,
whatever.
get crazy.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool. And are there any programs that you suggest for people who are just trying at home?
Well, you know, like you can do. I use Pro Tools,
Mm-hmm.
and but that's really just for audio. I think that Final Cut, you can do a lot of audio
Yeah.
stuff in Final Cut. I think that if you're sort of just new to the whole thing, that's probably the thing that you'd want to use. Adobe Premiere makes something. There's a lot of stuff. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, lots of options that are
Yeah.
out there and available to people.
That's
Are there
great.
any times that you've done something you feel was a production fail? Or like you went out there and you're like, ooh, why?
Well, you know, the times that I feel like I've made production fails, they don't really make it anywhere because I never allow them to leave my studio. So yeah, there have been times when it's mostly like compositional rather than production wise. You know, I've been unhappy with the sounds of things, but in the end, I have to fix them. So if I'm unhappy with the way something has been produced, I'll just fix it
repair
until it's right or redo it. You know, so I don't know that I've had any major production fails that have ever seen the light of day.
Right.
The production fails usually never leave the laboratory.
Yeah, which is totally fine. And that's where you take note of it and you realize what it is, you
Right.
fix it, and you go from there.
I'll never do that again.
Yes, that's
Right.
like, okay, no, none of that.
Right.
Any triumphs where, any of your like really shining moments of things you've done where you're like, that was exactly how I wanted that to turn out?
Well, it's funny because a lot of times exactly how you want it to turn out isn't the way things turn out, but they still can be better than what you expected.
Okay.
And that seems to happen a lot with live musicians because when you have so I write a score or a piece of music for an orchestra to play. What I do in the computer as a mock-up and what I hear is not necessarily what's going to happen, even though you've written it out and you've written out exactly how you want them to play a certain dynamic and how you want them to play a certain passage of notes. And you know, they read the page and every player is different. So I have experienced actually hearing an orchestra play back music in a way that I never expected that made it 10 times better than I could have ever wanted it to be. And those are the best moments. The best moments are when you have an idea and then when that idea is actually enacted, it's better than you ever thought that it could be.
Yes.
Those are the moments where you're like, that's why you have 30, 50, 60, 2, 1, 5 human beings playing
Yeah.
music. Yeah.
Because you have all these people who are very good at that thing that they do, collaborating
Sure.
on this bigger project. And that's when I'm working productions, a lot of times like I'm by myself because it's something small. So I'm like
Right.
shooting, I'm editing, I wrote it, all of this stuff just because that's what the project called for.
Right.
But when I get to work with a team and I just have my one role and then there's like a very good camera person, a very good sound person, a
Right.
very good everyone else, the project's always so much better.
Composers don't always get a chance to have that experience. And I think one of the things that helped me with what I do now is my experience being a member of a band. Because I've been a collaborator my whole life. That's how I came to music, is as a collaborator with other musicians. Whether it was a song that I wrote or a song that I co-wrote with other people or someone else's song that we were playing, it was all about the four of us coming together to create this sound. And a lot of composers don't get that chance. Many composers sit in a room by themselves in the dark, and that's it. They write and they write and they write and they write, and the door's closed, and that's all they do. There's no other input from any other either artist or musician or anyone. And I think that part of the thing that makes orchestral music or live music so great for scores is that it infuses an element into the score that is alive, that a single composer in a room with a laptop can't possibly do. Now, those scores that are written and made with a laptop in a room by people, by themselves, those have merit and those can be fantastic. But it doesn't have the same life. It doesn't have
Yeah.
the same feeling as something with live musicians playing real instruments.
Yeah, because
I'm not a purist by any stretch of the imagination. I have written many pieces of music that was just me on every instrument, or just me and a keyboard, or just me and a computer, and I've been very happy with them.
Yeah.
But since I've been recording a lot of live music for these projects that I've been working on, I've become more and more accustomed to what that does to the music that I'm writing, and it's thrilling.
Yeah, I used to really be into I was like, oh, it's just mine and nobody gets to touch it. And, you're a little be precious, right?
Right.
Which is, it's fun, especially when you're trying to exercise your creative muscles, because I'm the type of person that wants to learn a little bit about everything.
Right.
So then when I'm working on bigger things, I know how to communicate with those people. But now that I feel like I've done that, and I am enjoying more working collaboratively.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's very meaningful to be able to have collaborative moments, and for that to inform how you work.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying only 60-piece orchestras get to be great, because those are few and far between because of financial constraints. But I think that, it's even better to just have one other person in a room and throw ideas back and forth, or just like, what do you think of this? Or like, what would you play? Or how would you do this? Or get someone to just come in and tap while you're playing a guitar or playing the piano, to sort of give it a different feel,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have any advice for creatives in general who are looking to get into entertainment?
That question seems to arise a lot. Like,
Yeah.
what's your advice for people who are wanting to be creative and wanting to make it as a career? And it's it's interesting. I have no advice, because the advice is just to continue to be creative. Finding a way to market your own creativity is very difficult, and it's also different for every single person. So, I've always said that the success to be had is there's so many factors involved. There's being in the right place, having it be the right time, you having written the right music, it being the right group of people, it being a confluence of events that led you to that thing that made this one person want to hear this particular piece of music, or see this film, or watch your one-man show, or whatever it is. So there's really no one piece of advice that anybody can give that would lead anybody down a road of success. It's just, you have to try to be creative in your creative space. Like, be creative being creative.
Yes, I agree. And that has become a through line of a lot of our guests, is just, you have to go out there and do the thing that you are wanting to do.
Absolutely.
And then as you do it, then,
right,
you'll make your connections. But if you're not doing it, it's not going to happen.
That's right. If all you're doing is trying to do it, then you're not accomplishing anything.
Yeah.
You have to go out there and do it, in whatever way that is. If you're, you write piano music, then, find a piano bar and go do a free gig at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And just play, and just get out there and just make music, or sit in your studio and just write music.
Yeah, and then especially with the the internet, you can just
anybody can
output. As you get better, you might get recognized, you might not, but at least you're out there. The world it's happening. You are doing the thing that you need to do to make your career happen.
Agreed.
And then also approaching your creative elements of your life in a professional way.
Sure.
If you want to be a creative professional, go be professional.
Right. And I think being professional is a very profound part of what you're talking about. It's like the ability to be professional and know what you have to do, when you have to do it, and how to get to the point of where you have to do it, what you have to do. And so many people are like, well, it's just music. I just want to write music. Well, the business of writing music for films and television and all that stuff, it's not just writing music. It's not just the ability to write music. There are a lot of people out there who can write really, 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 really fantastic music.
Yeah.
It isn't just about that. There are things that you have to be able to manage. Interpersonal relationships are very important, like the ability to connect and the ability to have a conversation and understand what somebody's saying, and then translate that into music. That's a really, really important thing. And the ability to make someone believe that you are going to take care of their needs, and they can feel safe and comfortable and know that, oh, this is going to get taken care of. I don't have to worry about this.
Right.
Because in films and in TV, as you know, the filmmakers have about 10 billion things that they're thinking about. Music is just one single part of that. So if the filmmakers feel like that's going to be taken care of, that's one less thing that they need to think about. They can just check that mark and, okay, this is good. This is going to be taken care of.
Yeah, be responsible for your realm.
Exactly.
And be trustworthy, be, you know.
I think that works in all aspects of the creative. It's like, just be professional.
Yes, be professional and be nice.
Oh,
don't be a jerk.
It doesn't. By the way, it's easy to be nice. It actually is difficult to be a jerk, right?
Yeah.
You have to actually do things and say things in order to be a jerk. To be to be nice is simple. It's like don't be a jerk.
Yeah, because like so many of the opportunities that you got were probably because you were a nice guy, and they're like, it would be fun to give him an opportunity.
I think people who are genuinely or generally nice tend to attract people more than people who are actually not nice people in general. Like if you treat people with some respect, people will hopefully treat you back with respect. That's not to say that people don't make mistakes, because people make mistakes, but the general idea is to try to be as nice as possible.
Yes, be nice, be professional, and do the thing.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
You're welcome.
About shows we're not supposed to talk about.
What show?
And awards that I didn't get to hang on to today and won't talk to me because you didn't bring it.
She has a name.
Congratulations on your
Thank
Emmy win. Thank you for chatting with us.
Much.
Let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me. I have a website, jeffrusso.com, and you can see me on Twitter at Jefferson Russo. Jefferson Russo. It's not Jeff. It's at Jefferson Russo. And Facebook, Jeff Russo Music, I think, is my Facebook thing. That may or may not be right. I think it's Jeff Russo Music. And various other places, but I think those are the two main things: is Facebook and Twitter and a website.
Yeah, and basically you turn on your TV anywhere and you'll hear Jeff Russo playing somewhere on your TV, in your movie theater, on your video games. It's great. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And I'm Mary Lou Mandel. Thank you again for watching On the Fly Filmmaking. You can find me all over the internet at Mary Lou Mandel, and we will catch you next time.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.